Try to recognize your blessings in the sadness. This is a double-edged thing for me, because everyone's going to tell you that. Like, always try to find the good, always remember the blessings or whatever else. But I do think at this time of the year particularly, there are those kind of things that we can still recognize that are good, and that it's not all bad. And so I don't use this as a way of trying to divert people from the sadness. But at the same time, we do live in a part of the world that's pretty well blessed, and as sad as it is, I mean, that we have some stuff, and maybe that somehow can bring us some solace as we go through the holidays. Do something for others in memory of your loved one. I know some families that say, I don't think I could celebrate Thanksgiving this year, but we're going to go work in a soup kitchen, and we're going to tell them, because my wife died, that, we're all here to help somebody in need. That's great, and that's something they're actively doing. Try to find time for your spiritual side. What I mean by that is going back to that prayer, meditation, something that just centers us, because it's such a hectic time, and it can really drive us so crazy sometimes that that's important. And always try to maintain that sense of hope, as I talked about before. And in your life, your life will improve. Now, what I want to talk about now is with children, but to come back to some examples, and we'll cover those as we go through this last couple of slides. So first of all, back to parents again. Parents have a habit of really trying to be good to their kids, obviously, and really trying to completely fill the needs of the children going through a time like this. And the reality is, you can't be like you were if someone died, all right? I mean, you just are going to be different. And somehow you just have to accept that this year will be different. A mother said it was like a 40-year-old who died, and I saw the mother recently and the daughter. So the daughter, let me get it right. So the sister of the deceased and her mother was there. The 40-year-old was the one who died. And she said, the younger woman asked me, my kids are already talking about Christmas, and I don't think I can do a lot of what we normally do. And before I could even answer from like here, me to you guys, the mother said to her, well, so-and-so would want you to do it. And I said, the one answer I sure hope that I didn't hear was that one. And I was honest with her. I call that guilting people across the grave. The last thing we want to try to do is make you do something that's very hard because some deceased person would really want you to. To be perfectly honest, in my philosophy on dying, etc., is the deceased people would want you to do what you need to do to help yourself through whatever you're going through. They wouldn't force you to want to do something painful just because they want you to. So the reality is, I told her, you should tell your kids that Christmas will be different. So-and-so died. Your mom, in this case, died. And it can't be the same. And I told her, I said, someday, and these kids were in their teenage years, I said, first of all, if you say that to them, I think they're going to be okay. You may think they're selfish and they'll think blah, 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 but I think they're going to be fine. But in addition to that, when they're 40 years old, they're never going to remember what the stuff was that they got, but they're going to remember the specialness of that Christmas together the first year their mother died. And so that's what you need to focus on, not trying to make everything the same just to prevent some sadness, okay? But young people need adults to be authentic. They need us to be honest. Yes, it really hurts. I really feel terrible, et cetera, et cetera. We talked about the sleeping, and we talked about the concrete before. Now, here's this other one about rituals. Now, as I said, adults feel free to change things. The problem is children really do want stuff to be the same. So it's kind of a hard one. Like, so if they celebrate Hanukkah or Christmas, or they have some traditions with the lights, or decorating a Christmas tree or stockings, or whatever else, you kind of need to kind of balance what you can handle and what the kids need. All right, and that's just a tough one to sort of pull out. But the only thing I'd tell you about the children and stockings is that I've heard kids come up with great ways to resolve this. So I tell parents all the time, if you're feeling confused about what to do, ask your kids. Ask them, just tell them, be honest, this is going to be hard, but what do you think we should do? And they come up with great ideas. Like one family told me that the children are the ones that decided to put Dad's stocking up after Dad had died, but yet they all put things they wrote to Dad in his stocking, and then they read them on Christmas morning. I mean, these are great things. This is a kid came up with that, all right? So involve the children into some of those decisions as well. And lastly, then, I would simply tell you this, particularly adolescent people, it's really hard to sit around a table, all your family's there, someone starts telling stories about grandpa or whatever, or mom or somebody else, then people start to cry, which is perfectly okay. But most kids, teenagers, depending on the age, will need to escape that, all right? Please don't say, get back down here and sit down, all right? Let them go. They're struggling big time, and they need their space. They need to be able to not grieve in front of everybody like other people can. All right? So you just have to, again, make sure they're safe, et cetera, et cetera. But it's very good to just let them go. Drawing pictures of family can help, particularly with children. This may sound bad, but it's very helpful to let a kid draw what Christmas was like before and what it's like after, leaving something empty. It's very helpful to them to sort of work through that. Don't overcompensate with gifts. It's our natural tendency to do stuff like that. As we talked about before, children want to help anyway. I've had some mothers tell me, yeah, I took your advice, but when we started making cookies, there was like sugar everywhere. But you know what? They kind of got through without Dad that year, and it worked out pretty well. And then lastly, try not to take their behavior, their attitudes too personally, because the reality is it's not about you whatsoever. It's about the person who died, and like this boy I told you about just wanted to focus on his mom dying. He didn't care about the rest of the stuff.